Hi. Oh, okay. Look at my little thing. So, hello. Hi. Okay, hi. I'm Vivian, and I thought I should start doing these live videos as a side to the Compassion Pilgrim. I feel like the Compassion Pilgrim videos, they're quite short and they're very fast paced. And what I want to do is I want to be able to deep dive into some of the topics that I speak about in the Compassion Pilgrim videos and really get to help you to move forward in whatever part of your life you're in. So, my background is positive psychology. I work with people to help them to move forward, to enhance their well being, to get a clearer image on where they're going. I kind of guide them on their path, and I help people to gain a little bit more self awareness. I've personally been on that journey myself. I became a single mom at the age of 21. And in that time, when I became a single mom at the age of 21, I was essentially still a child about being basically becoming a parent. And that didn't really sit right with me. So I set out on a mission. I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure out what this thing called life is all about. I want to help myself. I want to build a better relationship with myself. Is this thing connected? I don't think it is. I don't know which. Sorry, I'm new to this stuff. I'm not even sure which camera I'm looking at. Am I looking at the right camera? Oh, I am. Okay. So, so I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out this thing. I want to help to build a better relationship with myself because things hadn't been easy for me a year leading up to that. And I really just set myself a goal to really just understand myself a bit more and to help myself to be in a better position mentally wise and also just gain a bit more self awareness. And so I could be the best mom I can be, but also I could be the best version of myself I can be. I wrote myself a vision, I had a plan of what I wanted to achieve in my 20s. I just turned 30 a few months ago. And as we speak today, that vision that I wrote myself has manifested itself and it's happened. And it's crazy for me because I generally thought during my 20s I was mad. Generally thought like I was focusing on things I shouldn't be focusing on. I thought I was doing a bit too much, and it was mad. It was crazy. So I that journey I went through my 20s, I'm going to be sharing that with you and helping you to move forward. And I've worked with so many people who I've helped to move forward as well. And there's certain patterns I've seen, and there's things I've seen that I think if people knew would really help them to build a better relationship with themselves. And one of those things is compassion, just people being kind to themselves and being able to approach ourselves from a kind way. The one thing that really helped me is the fact I went and studied positive psychology, and a lot of it was applied. So I learned a lot of interventions and techniques that help people to essentially boost their well-being. And over the years, I've been implementing that in my own life, but with other people, mainly young people and also adults. And when I say that vision I wrote down has manifested itself, as we speak right now, I've just raised my first round for a tech startup company, a mental health and well-being company, which is going to be helping young people age 11 to 18 to boost their well-being, to build a better relationship with themselves and essentially move forward in life. um, so I'll share more about the tech startup the more we go. But one thing I've learned over the years is the relationship we have with ourselves is one of the most important relationships that we'll ever always have. And we spend 24 hours with ourselves. And I feel like a lot of us kind of, not a lot of us, I need to stop saying that. I feel like some people we overlook that relationship as to how it holds us back when it comes to certain things. And when that relationship is not the best it should be, it can really affect many areas of our lives, and we can be pressured by people, by family, by society into essentially living a life that doesn't work for us, when really and truly most of us have a clear vision and a clear want of what we want, but sometimes we can be dragged left, right, and center by other people. So compassion pilgrim came in because I wanted to spread a little bit more awareness about compassion and the power of it, but also to be able to share nature with other people. But compassion pilgrim, since I started doing it, it's kind of taking away the joy of me walking. And I've been walking and hiking for about 7 years, and now wanting doing the content kind of takes away some of that joy. So I'm going to do the compassion pilgrim videos once a month, and then I'm going to do these lives a couple times a week, 2-3 times a week. Then I'll deep dive into the stuff I want to help you, to connect with you, to help you to move forward, to gain inner peace, success, happiness, and whatever journey you're on, whether you're someone in your 20s, someone who's wanting to start a business, someone who's wanting to just build a better relationship with themselves, someone who's in their self-discovery journey, someone who's trying to figure out where they're at, who they're at. So this is what this is going to be about. And I want to do it live so I can just get to connect with you on a deeper level and just get to understand each other a little bit more and also interact with you. So the first video, you're not broken, you're just human. And I think what I wanted to touch on in this video is the fact that what we are just humans at the end of the day, and sometimes we can miss that. We can be so hard on ourselves, and one of the ways to be able to combat that is through compassion, and compassion in particular for ourselves, and understanding that we're not alone. So I'm going to touch on what positive psychology is, and I'm going to touch on what compassion is, and I'm going to touch on what self-compassion is. The more we go on, we'll deep dive into different aspects of these type of things. So I'm just going to read you a note that I wrote 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I started my master's in positive psychology. The first day that we went there, we were asked to go up to the top, and we were asked to, if you see me looking over here, it's because I've got like a screen with notes. I go on and on sometimes. And that's why Compassion Pilgrim is good, because it gets me to narrow things down. So I'm going to just read to you what I wrote when I was, how old was I? I must be like 24, 25 at the time, 24. And this was in 2019 that I wrote this. So 6 years ago. So I was about 24, 23. Is that 23? I don't know how old I was. But we had to go up to the front of the class and talk about why we wanted to do positive psychology. And this is what I wrote. So I can just share with you where I was at in my mindset, and how me just writing some of these things that I wrote over the years and being clear on what I wanted has helped me to get to a place where essentially I'm not perfect. I get a lot of things wrong. I failed a lot. And there's so much that I do that's sometimes I'm a bit like, oh my God, why have you done that? But I've got to the point where I've accepted myself over the years and said, you know what, Vivian, you're growing and you're learning. And I've seen many people struggle with that. And this is what the journey of just being human is about. That human conditioning, that we are who we are at the end of the day. We can always grow and learn. However, we're not victims of our circumstances. And there's power in personal responsibility. And there's power in being kind and compassionate to ourselves. And there's power in just saying, you know what, this is me. And I will be the best version of myself and take responsibility for myself. But that requires time, and that requires work, and it's not an easy journey. And you need the right people around you. You need to understand where you're going. You need to have something that anchors you to keep moving forward. And you need to be able to have those reflective conversations with yourself, where you reflect enough to be honest with yourself. Because what I've seen a lot in my work is the one person people lie to the most is ourselves. And the moment we can gain a little bit more self-awareness, the more we can start to go within and be honest with ourselves and how we are and how our behaviors affect other people, how they affect us, the easier it is for us to be able to, you've probably heard me speak about this, the 4 Ps, be able to pause, gain perspective, plan and pivot. So the 4 Ps I talk about them a lot, and they've helped me to be able to go in different directions in life. So this is what I wrote. I wrote, okay, I'm young, not had much life experience, and I'm still growing, and I feel like this is the right place for me right now. I've always seen things from a perspective of how people work, resilience, strengths, post traumatic growth, and how to deal with the little things that life throws at us. I want to help young people. I want to help people to cope with the life's difficulties and the difficulties that life throws at them. Provide them with the knowledge and the wisdom to grow as individuals, learning through inside out, learning from their experiences. I see that people tend to be critical a lot, but many people don't realize the beauty that's within them. I feel if people are given the opportunities to grow and to understand that they always have a choice in their journey and who they are is okay, people can be the best version of themselves. Who am I aiming to help and how much? I'm wanting to help people to improve their life, not just people that are ill, but people who just want to grow and develop and move forward. Life is about both opportunities and problems. So we need the tools to help us to spot the opportunities and get through life's problems. Because when you feel better, you do better. This is a little bit all over the place. I don't know if you can see. I was just literally trying to piece it all together. You can see I was just writing for the sake of writing, but I just pieced it together. So, what is positive psychology? So, positive psychology essentially is positive psychology is all about what makes life worth living. That's how I like to put it. What makes your life worth living? How are you living as a person? And what makes you feel good about yourself? Traditional psychology essentially always looked at mental illness, what's not right, what's not going right with people. What positive psychology done about 25 years ago, when a psychologist called Martin Seligman, he came in and said, you know what, I want to flip the script a bit. What I want to do is I want to actually focus on what's right with people. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to help people to focus on what's right with them so they can actually boost things that are good about themselves. So he started focusing on positive psychology, all about well-being, mental health, like decreasing depressive symptoms, anxiety symptoms, and increasing happiness, increasing self-compassion, increasing positive emotions, increasing our strengths. So all the things that make us function better, because really and truly you can't hate yourself into becoming better, but what you can do, you can spot the opportunities as a person and be able to grow and develop as an individual. So essentially, it's all about the scientific study of mental health and well-being and flourishing. It examines the positive side of the human experience. And it's all about losing perfectionism and remembering that we have that sense of that we can get things wrong. And sometimes you have to learn from that, and that's okay. And what happens is, in the world that we live in at the moment, is that we can be critical because sometimes we feel like we're behind, we're comparing, we're seeing what people are doing, and we see how the world is, and we can feel like, you know what, I'm not where I'm meant to be. And believe me, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Where you are right now is exactly where you're meant to be. When you get there, you will get there. And once we're able to understand that and keep going in and having that patience and that compassion within ourselves, it's much easier for us to be able to keep moving forward without looking what's going on around us. I'm a believer in that As long as you remain calm within, inside, everything around you can be so chaotic that you still remain calm within yourself. So what positive psychology is basically is about growing resilience, being able to cope with what life throws at you. It's about being adaptable in a fast changing world. Okay, just bear with me. So, and through that, one of the main aspects that positive psychology studies is compassion. And compassion is basically the study of, so it's about alleviating other people's suffering and pain. It's about being kind to people and saying, you know what, like somebody has fell down on the ground, help them to grow, to pick them up essentially. That's what compassion is about. But what I like to focus on is on self-compassion. Self-compassion is about recognizing your humaneness. It's about you recognizing who you are as a person and being kind towards yourself. Just like how we are kind to other people, and which how basics about treating yourself how you will treat a loved one. And where self-compassion comes in is basically is that acceptance towards ourselves, regardless of how inadequate we feel, about the failures that we feel, or the suffering that we're going through. And the leading psychologist in this is, her name is Kristen Neff. And self-compassion comprises of three elements. It's basically self-kindness, which is about being warm and supportive towards yourself rather than being harsh and critical. It's about the common humanity element, which is about recognizing your suffering and personal failure, that they're part of the shared human experience, that you're not alone. So, what I've seen a lot in my work is a lot of people feel like they're alone in their experiences and that what they're going through is just them. But when you really put things into perspective, you start to realize that you're not alone and there's loads of other people who are going through what you're going through. And what comes in with a little bit of compassion, of self compassion, is that you start to have gratitude and you start to understand that, you know what? I am not alone in the world. There are other people who are going through what I've gone through. The experiences may not be the same, but there's people who feel the same way you do. And when you do that, you feel more connected to other people rather than just being isolated by yourself. And the last thing is about mindfulness. It's just about paying attention to what's going on within you, yourself, and your world. It's about paying attention. So it's about observing negative thoughts and emotions with openness and balance, and without suppressing or repressing, blaming or exaggerating how you feel, because we have a tendency as people to blame other people. Is somebody else's fault, and this is where personal responsibility comes in. And we have a tendency sometimes to suppress certain things, which can manifest itself in many different ways, where somebody could trigger you and you're like, oh, you blow up and you're like, oh god, why did I do that? Because you'd been suppressing stuff. So this is where compassion comes in. And compassion and self compassion, what they've done, they've been proven to enhance well being, improve mental health, reduce self criticism, reduce depressive symptoms, and also reduce anxiety. So that's why I like to focus on those areas. But I'm going to be speaking about them over the course of these lives as to how you can apply them into your lives. So, compassion and positive psychology, why I'm a big fan and why I focus on them, is because they help us to be better versions of ourselves. They help us to function better in the world without feeling like we're victims of our circumstances. They help us to be at peace with ourselves. Even if there's chaos going on around us, they help us to be able to grow and move forward. We're not saying forget that maybe something is not going right, but it's about acknowledging that at the end of the day, you're human and you're not broken. And when we start to feel like we're broken, that's when our inner voice can become very, very critical. And then we just can't function. We just can't function because the world gets overwhelming, life gets overwhelming, and then it's very tricky for us. Um, okay, and what that does is also it helps us with our relationship with ourselves and relationship with other people, and this helps us to have more motivation and higher life satisfaction, and also it improves just our general health. So self-compassion and compassion is not about pity. It's not about self-pity or indulgence or self-indulgence, but rather it's about having a balanced approach to your experiences that foster growth and overall well-being. So why this is important is because the most terrifying thing I've seen, the most terrifying thing is to accept ourselves completely. We can be our own worst enemies. And Carl Jung, Carl Jung, he's a psychologist. He Young. You're gonna realize my pronunciations are all over the place. English is not my first language. That's the excuse that I use. Um, um, but he said that, and he was right because I've seen in my work, I've worked with so many people, been in so many people's inner worlds, and through that, I've seen how people struggle to accept who they are. Um, but it's very possible. It's quite simple. I'm gonna have to go because this camera would die on me in a minute. It just does its own thing. Um, so my mission in life and my purpose is I want to be able to make inner work as accessible and as relatable as possible from a young age as possible, so people know how to cope with what life throws at them, and people can be able to pivot and understand and accept themselves for who they are. So it's about just making life your friend, being able to shift patterns in your life and live a happier and more fulfilling life where you have a life and you live a life that works for you. So this is just the general gist. This is just an intro. We're going to start going a little bit more deeper as we go on. And through that, what we'll do is we'll basically stop running away from ourselves. Okay, this camera is gonna die, so I'm gonna go. Hopefully, this is the first intro, and um, yeah, this is gonna be a regular thing. So the lives are gonna be a thing, and then